Following early publication of out-of-body phenomena, a dedicated laboratory opened in the woods of Western Virginia. Originally called the Whistlefield Research Laboratories, it was soon renamed the Monroe Institute of Applied Sciences, a facility built specifically to translate out-of-body theory into a format compatible with Western empirical science. The building was divided strictly by function. Normal human operations were kept separate from a highly engineered research wing, which housed a specialized control room, a briefing area, and 3 independent isolation booths. This multi-channel paper chart recorder actively monitored subjects, tracking brainwave patterns, muscle tone, pulse rates, and body voltage. The doctors and engineers identified a pattern. They could determine precise shifts in a subject's awareness simply by reading minute changes in their baseline body voltage. Before the research team could study the abstract nature of human consciousness, they first had to tether it to something measurable. They had to successfully isolate it into undeniable, hard biological data. The isolation booths plunged the human nervous system into an absolute sensory void, entirely shielded from external air currents, temperature, and ambient acoustics. Inside this dark environment, subjects lay flat on heated waterbeds for complete physical comfort. Fine electrode wires were meticulously pasted to their scalps, temples, and wrists, hardwiring their nervous systems directly to the analog graph plotters. The entire operation relied on a local volunteer team. Local medical professionals, specialized electronic engineers, and psychiatric workers monitored the consoles, running experiments during nights and weekends after their regular jobs. This schedule created a severe bottleneck for the research. Subjects wired into the dark booths were either too exhausted from their work week and immediately fell asleep, or were too restless to relax into the targeted baseline state. Standard medical practice might use medication to manage these physical states, but institute protocols strictly forbade the introduction of any drugs or chemical sedatives to manipulate a subject's awareness. Banning chemical intervention left the team with a significant problem. To continue their mapping, they were forced to engineer a completely novel, non-pharmacological mechanism to control and direct human brain states. The solution to this roadblock emerged in 1975 as a patented acoustic breakthrough they called the frequency following response, or FFR. The researchers found that they could use sound in place of medication. By introducing specific audio frequencies into a subject's ears, the brain's electrical waves would naturally begin to resonate, eventually mimicking those exact identical frequencies. By cross-referencing specific audio patterns, the Institute identified and stabilized a highly reproducible state of consciousness. They labeled it Focus 10. Here we see the biological paradox of Focus 10. The instrument readouts proved the physical body was in a state of deep sleep, displaying low muscle tone and a slow heart rate. Yet overlaid across this baseline were sharp, high-frequency beta signals indicating waking alertness. Mastering this paradox allowed an elite core of subjects to remain fully conscious. They learned to speak seamlessly through overhead microphones, communicating directly with the control room while their physical bodies were entirely asleep. To scale this effect, the Institute had to address the structural asymmetry of human biology. The left hemisphere governs linear thought, logic, and speech, while the right controls spatial awareness and intuition. The demands of modern life heavily favor left brain dominance, creating a biologically unbalanced society. To bypass this natural limitation, the engineers developed an acoustic process they named Hemi-Sync, short for hemispheric synchronization. This animation illustrates the precise mathematics delivered through stereo headphones. An isolated 100 Hz audio signal is introduced into one ear canal, while a slightly faster 125 Hz signal is delivered into the other. Because each ear is hardwired to a single hemisphere, the separate sides of the brain are forced to work in perfect unison. They must communicate across the central nervous system to calculate the mathematical difference between the two tones. The resulting computation produces a third signal. The brain internally generates a powerful, narrow-band 25 Hz electrical wave, a frequency that does not actually exist as an audible sound in the room. This phantom electrical wave synchronizes both hemispheres into an identical state of awareness. The raw power of this acoustic math was confirmed when the Institute sent a composite tape to naive test subjects in Kansas. One subject immediately aborted the test, terrified to find his consciousness pinned to the ceiling, staring straight down at his own physical body. Exposed to the mechanics of hemispheric synchronization, clinical associates quickly moved the technology out of the Virginia lab and integrated these reel-to-reel sound matrices into their private psychiatric and stress reduction practices. The applications produced immediate clinical anomalies. An Air Force colonel treated with the tapes rapidly shed months of rigid chronic behavioral stress. In another ward, a terminal psychologist achieved natural, pain-free sleep without the use of any sedative medications. The most rigorous validation emerged through a program designated emergency treatment. A psychiatric counselor, already a veteran of 15 procedures, was scheduled for his 16th successive kidney operation. Wearing headphones throughout the procedure, the patient maintained a completely steady physiological baseline during major surgery using only a Hemi-Sync tape. Afterward, he required absolutely zero post-operative pain medication. His recovery time was cut exactly in half. When his lingering low blood pressure triggered concern, he corrected it simply by counting backward from 10 to 1 to fully exit the tape state. The acoustic matrix had successfully replaced standard chemical anesthetics. Beyond the surgical theater, the tapes found immediate commercial utility. Corporate executives traveling on long flights utilized the acoustic matrices in the cabin to completely eradicate transcontinental jet lag. Educational metrics saw massive boosts. Government training schools recorded a 30% increase in learning curves for their Morse code students when the frequencies were applied. In Tacoma, primary-grade pupils listening to the audio processes were able to master an entire semester's curriculum in a span of just 4 weeks. These outcomes, ranging from major surgery to primary school classrooms, supported the Institute's core premise that the deliberate focusing of consciousness acts as a versatile tool for managing a wide range of biological and cognitive challenges. This research methodology treated human consciousness as a form of energy at work. By applying specific sound frequencies, the research team could directly influence and direct the brain's internal electrical environment. Through the application of acoustic mathematics, the Monroe Institute established a repeatable mechanism to map and expand the hidden architecture of the individual's mental potential.